Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at leadership. Yeah, so in this deep dive, we really want to break down his core philosophy, and see if we can find some practical stuff, some wisdom that our listeners can actually use in their own lives.
Sounds good.
Okay, so one of the things that really jumped out at me when I was watching this lecture was this idea that everyone, and he says this very clearly, everyone was created to lead. Now, I have to admit, when I first heard that, I was kind of like, wait a minute. If everybody's leading, then who exactly is following?
Yeah, where does that leave everybody else?
Right. But then he goes on to explain that it's not really about titles or positions. He's not saying everyone needs to be a CEO or a president or anything like that. It's more about recognizing the potential for leadership that exists in every single person, even those who might seem like they're just following.
It's a pretty powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah. And he even uses this really cool personal story to illustrate his point.
Oh, yeah. What's he talking about?
He talks about how he came from very, very humble beginnings. He even mentions sleeping on the floor with roaches. And then years later, he becomes this sought-after leadership consultant working with, world leaders and stuff.
Really shows you that it's not about where you start. It's about what you do with what you got.
Totally. Okay, so then he goes on to connect this idea of everyone being a leader with the concept of self-discovery. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Okay, I'm listening.
So he uses this analogy of a car engine.
Okay.
He says that even though the battery is what holds all the power for the car, right?
Makes sense.
But that battery is useless without this tiny little $4 terminal wire to actually connect it to the rest of the engine.
Wow, I never thought about it that way.
Right. And then he's like, no single part of this engine, the battery, the wire, the spark plugs, whatever, none of them can say oh, I'm the leader here.
It's all got to work together, right?
Exactly. Each part plays a totally crucial role and leads in its own very specific function.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then he's like, now think about that in terms of individuals and their talents, right? We often overlook or undervalue certain roles in society.
Hey, boy.
We always think about the people at the top, the CEO, the rock star, whoever, but we forget about all the other people who are making those things happen.
Yeah, the support staff, the janitors,
Exactly, all of them. So Dr. Monroe is reminding us that every single contribution is absolutely essential.
I love that.
Right? If you're a janitor, you're the leader of keeping that place clean. Everyone has the potential to lead within their own sphere,
That's a good point. Especially these days where everyone wants to be the boss. It's like, no, man. Just be good at what you do and that's enough.
I think that's such a valuable insight, especially in today's world where, like you said, we put so much emphasis on titles and hierarchies and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But this idea of distributed leadership where everyone is empowered to contribute their own unique talents and lead in their own way, that really resonates with me. It's not just about the person at the top calling all the shots. It's about recognizing the leadership potential in everyone around us, in every situation.
Yeah, that's a great point. So, okay, we've got everyone's a leader. Everyone's got a specific role and a specific, talent. Then what?
So then he goes on to make this really striking comparison. He compares leaders to, get this, lions.
Lions. That's interesting.
Yeah, the lion analogy. He points out that lions, right, they're not necessarily the biggest animals in the jungle.
Right.
They're not the strongest, and they're certainly not the smartest.
Yeah, but they rule the jungle.
Exactly. So what's their secret? Right.
What makes them so powerful?
He says it's all about their attitude.
Okay, attitude. I like that.
Yeah, lions have this unwavering confidence. They have this absolute belief in their ability to dominate.
They just know they're in charge, right?
Yeah. He even paints this really vivid picture, right? He's like, imagine a lion sees an elephant.
Okay, I'm imagining it. Big lion, even bigger elephant.
Right. And the lion doesn't even hesitate. He just looks at that elephant, and in his mind, he's already thinking, lunch. Right. It's not arrogance. It's this deeply ingrained belief in their own capacity,
It's amazing. They know.
Exactly. And I think that ties back to what we were talking about earlier with Dr. Monroe's own personal story.
How so?
Well, he talks about how once he shifted his mindset, once he started truly believing in his own potential, he became capable of achieving things he never even thought were possible before.
Oh, I see. The lion mentality.
Yeah. He actually uses the word dangerous to describe, the impact of this shift in thinking.
It's dangerous, huh?
Once you unlock that belief in yourself, watch out, because you become capable of almost anything. And that brings us to one of the most, crucial parts of Dr. Monroe's whole philosophy, the power of belief systems.
Belief systems.
Yeah, he goes so far as to say that your belief system is the source of your attitude. It's like our beliefs, they create this mental framework that shapes our entire reality.
That makes sense. Like if you believe you can't do something, you probably won't even try.
Exactly. And he argues that a lot of these beliefs, especially the ones that are holding us back, the limiting beliefs, they're often like deeply ingrained in us from our culture, from our upbringing. You know, all these messages we've been getting since we were kids.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
They become these like invisible barriers that stop us from reaching our full potential, you know?
Like those walls you can't see, but you keep running into.
Exactly. And to kind of illustrate this, he shares this story about driving on the Autobahn in Germany.
Okay, what about it?
He's driving, right, and he finds himself hitting this like mental speed limit. Like he can't go faster than 150 miles per hour.
Even though the car could go faster.
Way faster.
Yeah.
But in his mind, he just couldn't break past that 150 mark.
Wow.
And it's a great example, right? It shows how we create these mental blocks without even realizing it. Like, what other self-imposed limitations are we all carrying around?
That's a good question. Like, what are the speed limits that we've set for ourselves?
Exactly. What are those things that are preventing us from achieving what we're actually capable of?
Yeah, that's something to think about. It sounds like this Dr. Monroe really knows what he's talking about.
Right. And he connects this idea of breaking free from our limitations to, and get this, his interpretation of leadership from a spiritual perspective.
Oh, interesting. How does he do that?
Well, he dives into this analysis of Genesis 1.26, where God, gives humans dominion over the earth.
All right, I remember that.
And he's like, God's vision of leadership, it's not about controlling people. It's about managing resources responsibly. It's about stewardship, not domination.
So like taking care of things, not bossing people around.
Exactly. And then he brings it all together with this incredible line. He's like, whatever a manufacturer demands, he builds into the product.
Whoa, that's deep. But how does that apply to leadership?
Okay, so think about it, right? If God, the ultimate manufacturer, if he designed us to lead,
then that means...
And that means the capacity for leadership is already built into us. We just need to discover it and tap into it.
Wow.
It's not about becoming something we're not. It's about unleashing that potential that's already there.
Okay, now I'm starting to see how it all connects. That's really inspiring.
Right. He's basically saying we don't have to try to become leaders. We already are leaders at our core.
I like that.
And then to make this even clearer, he uses this beautiful analogy of a seed and a tree.
The seed and a tree. Okay, tell me more.
He says we're all like seeds, right? Containing the potential to become these mighty trees.
Okay, we're all seeds.
But that potential needs the right environment to grow and flourish,
Yeah, like good soil, sunlight, water, all that.
Exactly. So it's about creating the right conditions for our leadership potential to blossom.
I see. So we need to figure out what kind of soil our leadership seed needs to grow.
Right. And then he drops this really profound line. He says, leadership is not about people following you. It's about you discovering yourself, your gift, and then serving that to humanity.
Wow. So it's not about seeking followers. It's about finding and sharing your gift.
Exactly. It completely flips the script on how we usually think about leadership,
Yeah, that is pretty mind-blowing. But how do we even know what our gifts are? How do we discover that hidden potential he's talking about?
Well, that's a great question. And that's exactly what we're going to be diving into next.
This is getting good. I can't wait.
Okay, so before we were talking about how leadership's really about discovering your gift and then serving it to humanity. But how do we do that? How do we actually find those gifts? And then what does it even mean to serve them to humanity? It all sounds kind of big and vague.
Yeah, well, Dr. Monroe, he talks about the importance of understanding your why, your purpose, basically.
Yeah, it's like your motivation, the thing that really gets you going.
Exactly. True leaders, they have this really clear vision of what they want to do and why it matters to them, why it matters to the world.
Okay, so it's about connecting with your purpose, that driving force that really pushes you to make a difference. But how do you find that? It all seems kind of, I don't know, overwhelming,
He believes everyone has a unique purpose. Everyone. Like a special gift they were born to share. But a lot of times, it takes some serious soul-searching to find it.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in, just life and kind of forget about the bigger picture.
Totally. But Dr. Monroe's saying, look, if you want to be a real leader, you got to connect with your purpose. Because when you're in line with your why, your actions, everything you do becomes more focused, more impactful, and honestly, more fulfilling.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like if you're doing something you really care about, you're going to be more motivated
Right.
and probably better at it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just about you feeling good, it's about the impact you have on everyone else. When you're serving your gift, you're contributing something really valuable to the world. He even uses the example of a fruit tree.
A fruit tree.
Yeah, he says, think about it. People are drawn to the fruit, right? Not the leaves or the branches.
Okay, I see what he's saying.
So the idea is focus on cultivating your gifts, on offering something beneficial, and people will naturally be drawn to you, to your vision, to what you're putting out there.
This is not about chasing after followers. It's about being the best version of yourself, the most fruitful, and sharing that with the world.
Exactly. And remember how we were talking about stepping out of your comfort zone, taking risks? Well, he ties that into this too.
Like with the Autobahn story.
Right. We got to break free from those self-imposed limitations. Embrace that lion mentality we talked about.
Believe in ourselves, basically, and our ability to do great things.
Exactly. Push past those mental speed limits.
Right.
And discover what we're really capable of.
Okay, so we've got self-discovery, connecting with your purpose, pushing past your comfort zone. But what about the actual, like, day-to-day leadership stuff?
Well, he says true leadership, it's not about authority. It's not about being the boss. It's about influence.
Okay, so like inspiring people.
Exactly. You're not ordering people around, you're inspiring them to take action.
So more like guiding and encouraging.
Yeah. And he talks about how good leaders, they create this vision and then invite others to join them on that journey. It's not about dictating, it's about collaborating.
Working together.
Right. Building a shared vision and working together to make it a reality. But that's not all. He also talks about core values that should guide how we lead.
Values? Like what kind of values?
Well, things like integrity, being honest and true to yourself and your word, authenticity, being genuine and real, and service.
Putting others first.
Exactly. Putting the needs of others before your own.
So it's not about power trips. It's about serving something bigger than yourself.
Exactly. And that kind of leadership, the kind that's rooted in integrity, authenticity, and service, it draws people in. It inspires them to be better.
It's definitely different from a lot of the leadership we see out there.
For sure. And that brings us back to his main point. Everyone has the potential to lead. It's not just for a select few, it's for all of us.
But wait, if everyone's leading, who's following?
Well, he says leaders, real leaders, they don't go looking for followers.
People just naturally follow them.
They're attracted to the vision, the passion, the authenticity. So the focus shouldn't be on building a following. It should be on becoming the kind of leader people are drawn to.
Okay, so cultivate your gifts, share your authentic self, serve something bigger. Got it.
Exactly. It's about becoming the best version of yourself. And in doing so, you naturally inspire and attract others who resonate with your vision.
That's awesome. It takes a lot of pressure off,
Right. Instead of stressing about being a leader, focus on being your best self.
So that's really the heart of Dr. Munro's message.
Absolutely. Leadership is not about power or control. It's about potential. It's about those unique gifts inside each of us and using them to make a positive impact on the world.
So inspiring, but I'm curious, does he have any final thoughts, any guidance for us as we go on this leadership journey?
Oh, he definitely does. And it's a question that really makes you think about what kind of mark you want to leave on the world.
So we've covered a lot about Dr. Munro's ideas, like how everyone has that leadership potential. It's about finding our unique gifts and using them to make a positive impact. But before, you mentioned Dr. Munro leaves us with a question. What is it?
He asks, what if we stopped focusing on getting people to follow us and really dedicated ourselves to developing and sharing our gifts, with the world?
Wow, it makes you think. It's like flipping the whole idea of leadership on its head, right? Instead of looking to others for approval, we look inward. We focus on our potential and let that kind of shine outward.
It's a call to action, to be our true selves and let our gifts lead the way. And Dr. Munro, he really believed that making that shift from seeking followers to serving those gifts could have a powerful impact on the whole world.
So it's like the followers, they'll show up naturally. When we're in tune with our purpose, our gifts, and genuinely sharing those with the world, it's less about building a following and more about, making a difference.
Exactly. And that difference, even a small one, can ripple out. Dr. Munro, he always talked about the power of individuals, creating positive change. He said even the tiniest seed, given the right environment, can grow into this huge tree, providing shade, shelter, sustenance for everyone.
That's a beautiful image. Makes me think of that butterfly effect, how one small action can have these enormous consequences. We don't always see them, but they're there. It's a reminder that every single one of us, we can create a positive impact, maybe in ways we don't even realize.
Exactly. And that's, I think, the big takeaway from Dr. Monroe. Leadership, it's not about titles or positions. It's not about who's following you. It's about that potential inside each of us and using that potential to make the world a better place.
This deep dive has been so inspiring. Dr. Monroe's words are a great reminder that leadership isn't something we find out there, it's something we grow inside.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
Of self-discovery, purpose, service. And it's a journey anyone can take. It doesn't matter where you come from, what your situation is, what your goals are.
Thanks for walking us through this. Exploring Dr. Monroe's ideas with you has been, wow, really enriching.
My pleasure. And to all you listeners out there, take what Dr. Monroe said to heart. Find your gifts, help them grow, and share them. Be generous with them. You might be surprised by the impact you can make.
And that's a wrap for this deep dive into leadership with Dr. Myles Munroe. Hope you all found it as inspiring as we did. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep leading with purpose.